TikTok, like, is this something that musicians need to be doing, and why? How is it helping them?
Ooh, really good question. It depends on your demographic.
Yep.
So many of the other social media platforms are in decline for, I guess your 14 to 21 year olds.
Yep.
So it depends on the type of music that you're releasing.
So if you're a market, and this is why you've got to know who you're making it for as well. So yeah, and this is a feeling, and I mean, I'm even getting that, like I said, from my 13-year-old son. He's like, his playlist now are artists he's found on TikTok. So it's definitely, if that's where you're, it's really a shifting thing that was like spinning me out, because I wasn't really paying any attention to it. I was like, Facebook, Instagram, but it's coming up that there, and especially in that younger, and I'm noticing it a little bit where people are cross promoting across platforms, like they're sharing their TikTok on Instagram, that kind of thing.
Well, that's the great thing. You can I guess, because you can post in one space to multiple platforms, you don't have to fiddle around with it too much.
Is TikTok owned by Instagram and Facebook?
No, so it's a Chinese-based company, owned company. But as Instagram,
like where I am now, you've suddenly become the TikTok expert, even though we're talking out the studio. But anyway,
no, it's all good. I'll share what I know.
Yeah, tell me what you know.
But because Instagram has started releasing what they call Reels, you're then able to sort of upload that TikTok focused content, which you're seeing everywhere. So, in terms of putting a lot of time and energy into things, it doesn't need to be like super high end production values.
No.
It just needs to communicate an idea. And for musicians and creatives, that could just be a 30-second music lesson or a songwriting approach. And either you're singing or showing how you program something. But people love that sort of super bite-sized content on that platform.
And on that level, like I know for a lot of the artists I'm working with, they're super overwhelmed by like all the platforms and things. So I think it is that matter of picking one. Like, don't try and do all of them, or try and work out where you can co-opt and sort of share content where it's appropriate across platforms. So it sounds like if you're on Instagram already, well, any of that Reels type content, you can co-opt over into TikTok, and maybe keep the photo, like that, more photos in your feed for your Instagram. Facebook's Facebook's great for things like videos. Like this video on Facebook's going to be a lot easier, like to link through to YouTube or something, rather than upload that kind of like, half an hour or 40 minutes of a talk or something, through Instagram. So, it is an interesting one of whether or not Facebook is dead for those kind of, for music and art and those kinds of things. Like,
I think again, it's a demographic thing.
Yeah,
it's just like 14 to 21 don't use Facebook.
Yeah,
literally, they're like there. That's an old person's platform, to be blunt.
Yes.
So and even up to sort of mid to late 20s.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So so then you've got, up above that, you've got a sort of Instagram kind of crew. Maybe there's an Instagram, Facebook crossover there. So really just knowing your demographic.
Yeah, I do feel that there's that kind of, it seems sort of like, do you think Instagram, there's still young people still liking their Instagram, aren't they? Or are they moving off Instagram to TikTok?
They are, but, moving off in droves. So within, 2 years, it might even be in the same position
like Facebook went into, because that was definitely, like, I know even for myself within my own business, as I started my social on Facebook and went, that's where I put my energy, and then moved it very much to Instagram. To I highly neglect my Facebook because I'm not a fan of the social. I don't have a natural love. I don't have a natural love for that space.
They've crippled it. This is the thing. They've tried to make so much of the promotion within Facebook paid, and they've just crippled the algorithms. And as a result, people have just jumped over to Instagram, which is why Facebook bought Instagram. And now they're finding, you know, that it's shifting again. So it's a real insight into how not to operate a business if you actually want it to flourish. And there's a great little story from, I think it was like, you know, the band The Grateful Dead. And one of the reasons why they flourished is that they let their fans do a live recording to tape from the front of house output, right? So this is the 2-track output. So you had these fans sharing, just freely, everywhere, you know, and that really built their reputation in a time where there was no social media, you know. And someone made the observation that a band like U2, for instance, who comes down hard on anyone sharing any of their content on YouTube or anywhere else, you're actually finding that their longevity is diminishing. Because people aren't allowed to share or recreate their music in any way and adapt it over time.
I think this is another good point. Like, even like, I'm joking that I keep going up and checking is it still working? But like, on that level that we have, our expectations are more lo-fi, and it can be a bit scary as a musician. Like, I know for myself, when I share, say, live video, I'm like, oh, I don't really want that to live in a recorded form and people to listen to that and judge me on the sound quality of something recorded, you know, in the middle of a crowd on a phone. But I think it's also to understand that we are used to that now. We know the difference between what we're listening to on Spotify versus capturing the energy of, like, to not be too afraid. Like, I'm not saying make promo videos that are like professional promo videos that are shit, but also don't get too hung up on perfection in production qualities, just as an aside, like on that level, because we do want it sharing, and we do still want these spaces to feel real. Like, they've become so over curated that it's like, that's a bit of a bugbear for me. I'm a bit like, that's what I don't like about it. It's like, man, it's just, you know, this filtered reality on there. Big time. Sometimes is appropriate, but at other times it's, you know, like the point of social, it's meant to be social. It's meant to be about connection, and it's somehow veered away from that. And that was a bit of a digression down that path. But it is an interesting part, and it is interesting to see that, like, things like studios are now translating themselves into this space of content creation. Do you get other content creators in using spaces like more this sort of digital space content creators, or do you find it's more high end? Like, where does it, you know, film, television production sits in a different space to, say, online content creation?
So, you know, we'll often have bands coming through that might want to document their time in the studio. And often they're pretty lo-fi. You know, there's actually a great series, I think it was of the last Ocean Alley record that was actually done here. And that's 5 days of just them in the studio, both here and down in the other space, the tank, rehearsing. And, you know, they're outside flying drones as well, and just using the space to create content. And not worrying so much about whether the lighting is perfect or if you had a bung note or any of that sort of thing. You know,
and I think that's important to have, because that's also that real texture that people get to feel.